Good morning, Turfs Up Radio. Wayne Vos, Profits Unlimited, coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes, indeedy.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Can you believe it? Here it is. It's Friday already. Here we are again. Rode around another week, May 23rd. Just think May is almost in the books, y'all. I mean, we're going to hit June, and then before we know it, we're going to be talking about aeration and seeding and all those good things that we do in the fall. And it's crazy how fast the year's going. I don't know if it's going that fast for you guys, but I think we're kind of stuck in the spring mode because of temperatures and conditions. But the reality of it is, it's unreal to me that here we are. I think we were 49 or 50 degrees this morning here in Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm sure it was a little cooler in the outlying areas, but oh Lordy, I don't know. But we do have a great weather day. I will say that. Sun's out, full blown sun out, having a great day to go out and do what we're doing. We're catching up a little bit today from some of the weather we had this week. So we got a good day going on today, doing a little bit of mowing. The mowing we're actually doing is ahead for Monday. We're mowing a little bit ahead for Monday since we're going to be off Monday for the holiday, and doing a little bit of landscape work, kind of miscellaneous stuff, really putting a few, tree in there, tree in here and there, and a couple things like that, and a little cleanups and stuff like that. So, doing a little fertilization and weed control. So, but yeah, we got a good day underway that standpoint. I did do something the other day that I wanted to share with you guys. I mean, this is like, oh my gosh, this is and this is not going to sound like a big accomplishment for you all, but I do want to share it with you because it was a significant event for Wayne Vos. I actually was able to tie my left shoe. And I haven't done that for a long, long time. I mean, I can't remember, since my hip's been jacked up so long, prior to getting it replaced last September. I couldn't tie my left shoe. I just didn't have the flexibility in that hip to get down there and do it. And between my new hip and my therapy and, doing what I need to do to get that thing rocking and rolling around, it was funny. I was sitting there on the couch the other night and I told Tabitha, I said, man, I'm going to go work out. I really want to get my foot to be able to tie my shoe because I've been like really close. I could tie it, but it was on the side, not in the middle, you know? And so so I just reached down there and I'm like, oh my God, I did it. So I don't know. I don't think I've been that excited about tying my shoes probably since I was 6 or 7 years old, uh, whenever you're capable of getting down and tying your own shoes, whatever age that is, I don't know, but I did want to share that with y'all. So it was pretty cool that we got to do that, and um, yeah, I was really happy. It was almost emotional, quite honestly, because it's just been so long, since I was able to do it. So, but anyways, hey, hope you guys are having a great week. Hope you be able to do what you need to do today. Want to give my buddy Smoking Joe a shout out. He got his finger fixed the other day in his surgery, and we're supposed to have had a new guy start, I think, today. And he put a message out on Facebook that they no show, no call. So that's pretty cold blooded to do a guy that's injured and trying to find a little help. But oh well, can't do anything about it. So that's what's going on. So, um, anyways, he's going to make it. He's going to make it. So, just like it took me a minute to get to tie my shoe, Joe, you're going to come around and you're going to find somebody can help you get that work done. While you're injured a little bit. So, got my fingers crossed for that. Think we're going to have Matt with Bam Weather on today for us a few minutes. He's going to hop on here with us, I think. Um, I know they've been pretty crazy and rolling around and doing a lot of different things. So we'll see if he actually gets to hop on here with us. He was going to hop on here with us in a few minutes if he could break out on his meeting. So we'll see how that goes. Like to hear what he's got to say about Memorial Day. I want to give Miss Broyles, one of our customers, a big shout out. She came by today. She's the lady that brings us cakes. How cool is that? Um, I don't know. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. What do you think, Daniel? Miss Broyles and her cakes. She's been doing that for several years
Yeah,
now.
as long as I can
So, yeah,
remember.
I don't know how it ever got started, quite honestly. But yeah, she stopped by and said they were getting ready to go to Arizona, actually. So they were leaving for Arizona here in a few days for a vacation and going to have a good time out there, taking their granddaughter with them. So I wish them best of luck on that trip. They're going to do a little bit of golfing with their granddaughter, she was saying. So that'll be fun. Absolutely. So Tommy's big. He's an avid golfer, loves to golf. So he's going to take his granddaughter golfing with him out there. So wanted to give them a big shout out. And she was saying she was hoping her back doesn't bother. Her back's been acting up a little bit. She's was telling us she's got a degenerative disc in her
Mm,
back,
yeah,
and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me sharing that because she wouldn't have told us. But she said she's been working pretty hard this week at work, like 11 hours one day, 10 hours another day, and starting to bother her just a tad. So she's been doing a few more exercises. I got to thinking about that, Daniel. Because sometimes I say, "Hey, I'm gonna do a little bit of extra." You always say, "Well, you don't need to." Is more better in that situation? Maybe more often. I mean, as far as trying to keep that spread apart or whatever she's doing with it. What do
that'd
you
be
think?
past my
Yeah,
scope of no
I hear
knowing
you.
really
But I did
injury.
think of that. When because sometimes when I say, "Hey, I'm gonna go do an extra or longer or something," you say, basically you don't need to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing. If you feel like you can do more, it's kind of like the best analogy I can ever come up with is like a recipe, right? Like you don't need more sugar in a cake to make it better. You don't need to cook it longer or hotter to cook it less time. You need to follow the directions. It's going to come out the way it should come out.
yeah. That's a really good point right there. I like that. I've never used that in the selling process, but I could see where that would be beneficial in a lot of things that we sell. That
Mm-hmm.
something a new technique to give somebody some understanding on like lawn applications. More is not better.
Yeah.
Because you do get that question quite a bit. Actually, well, can you? Hey, I remember when I was out in the field spraying lawns. And a customer would be home. They say, "Man, can you spray it a little heavier for me today?" you know, it's heavier ain't better.
It's not to your benefit,
Yeah,
whether it's spraying lawns or doing more exercises. It's, the finding that perfect amount is the perfect amount.
right. That's the recipe, right?
Yeah.
The mm. God, speaking of recipes, I got an email today from Captain Kirk's. It's a restaurant you all down in Siesta Key that we love. That's got absolutely the best clam chowder ever. And they sent the thing out that about their Memorial Day special, if you will, a 25% discount code on some of their. They sell these. God, I want to try to think of what. Basically, they're clam chowder. Uh, where you don't have to make it. It's canned. You just add your own clams to it, and but it's got the heavy milk and or the whatever they call that
It's got the
stuff. And
base, just not the clams.
yeah, it's got
Interesting.
everything other than the clams.
Hmm. I
So
could eat it probably without the clams. Just throw some of those crackers in there.
yeah,
Be good.
God, I know I'm gonna order some. I really am going to order some. And I made a mistake last time of ordering too much though, because I
Can't
thought
imagine.
they're. I did because I thought everybody wants some, like you, Katie, Holly, because everybody likes it. Then nobody wanted as much as I thought they'd want, so end up having to pitch some of it. And that was so sad. It's set in the pantry, in those cans till they timed out. So and that's one thing I wasn't going to mess with was that kind of base. God, I know. They,
I know you didn't mess with 2-day-old meatloaf, so I know you're not messing with a week old canned food.
yeah, true that. All right, here's our buddy Matt. Good deal. Oh my goodness, Matt! So glad he's hopping on with us. How you doing, Matt?
I am doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Great, man. Hey, oh my gosh, thank you so much for hopping on with us. I was sharing it with everybody that you might not be hopping on as frequently with us, so but Brett would be okay. We like Brett too, you know.
You,
Don't get a fat head, okay? Oh Lord.
you know, I just, I probably be able to hop on a decent amount still. It's just, will it be Wednesday or Friday? My schedule's just a little bit crazy right now. So
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I hope it's crazy in a good way for you,
it is
so uh it's always good. So tell us about the weather, man. What's going on exciting?
exciting wise. Well, for starters, if anyone's asking right now, I think for the Indy 500 should be dry. So let's get that out of the way here. But
All right.
as far as the exciting weather here, Um, for today, I think in the portion of Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma, especially getting into the overnight, I think there could be some heavy rain, some strong to severe storms that will be possible tonight, more in kind of the clustery type of storms that works into the area, into some of those spots. Again, especially overnight tonight here. And then that risk will start to sag south a little bit. I'm concerned there could be yet another storm cluster getting into the overnight Saturday night, getting into Sunday morning, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, northern Texas, and probably similar areas getting into Sunday as well. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, the U.S. Southeast will probably be a good amount of thunderstorms over the next 3 days, especially where you and I are located, Wayne, to our
Yeah.
south and to our west here. There will be some opportunities for some, I would say, generally light rain. Towards Louisville, and I would say especially south and southwest. So the further west into Kentucky you get, you may get caught on the skirt of some of these storm clusters that move through here, but it's been a bit of an active weather pattern, right, as far as the rain department's concerned.
Yeah.
Overall, generally pretty quiet into the Ohio Valley. I would say even a lot of folks to the northeast as well. I know it's been very active there with pesky rain chances just hanging around. So the Memorial Day weekend, at least kind of Ohio Valley east, should be pretty good here. We get into next week, though. I think chances can start to ramp up, as we get into Monday here. I'd say especially closer to the Tennessee Valley for some more rain chances. But we get into Monday night to Tuesday, I think that's where we can start having some issues as far as more rain showers and thunderstorms that start to work back into the Ohio Valley. I think probably even Tuesday, Wednesday, there's probably going to be more storms from Texas along the Gulf Coast as well. It probably sparks up another kind of threat getting into the middle part of next week, to where I would call the pesky nuisance annoying chances into the Ohio Valley. And I think eventually, as we head into kind of mid to late next week, for some of your listeners into the U.S. Northeast, that's probably going to be a little bit of a better opportunity to pick up on some more rain threats getting into next weekend here. So,
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I know it's just kind of a unrelenting pattern here. Over the next, let's call it, 7 to 10 days, there's probably going to be a lot of rain that falls. I would say southeastern Kansas through the southern half of Missouri. I would say especially southern Kentucky, and then down south Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, even getting into the mid-Atlantic. It's probably just going to be a lot of rain in those spots. I think most notable, southeastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, Missouri, kind of the Ozarks, Arklatex region. Some areas, may end up with 3-4 plus inches of rain over the next 7 days. For here in the Ohio Valley, those rainfall totals are just going to end up probably a little bit more messy. I think northern Illinois Wisconsin, Michigan. There may be a few spots over the next 7 days that get, half inch or more of rain, but a lot of spots probably there will end up below normal as far as from a versus normal rainfall perspective is concerned here. So
that's nice to hear that word on rainfall.
Yeah, no
Below.
kidding. Yeah, below normal. But keep in mind, below normal does not necessarily mean completely dry, because there will be those chances getting into next week. And I'm sure it's,
So what do you think about Louisville right here, proper for us? I'm going to be a little selfish for a minute. You went around pretty good. What do you think coming back to work Tuesday is looking like for us in our area?
Tuesday. I think we may have some issues getting into Tuesday here. For starters, I'm concerned, especially overnight Monday night to Tuesday.
Okay.
Through Tuesday morning to be pretty wet. And so, that's going to pose the problem right there in itself of, how quickly are your properties going to dry out.
I got you.
But at least through Tuesday morning, I'm concerned. So it may be a bit of a late day getting into Tuesday, but I'm concerned even getting into Tuesday afternoon, there will be some scattered chances around. So Tuesday, in my opinion, will be probably your most difficult of the days next week to get really solid, good working hours in.
Right.
But there'll be some pesky chances, I think, getting into Wednesday as well. My gut for now says Monday you should be good into next week. Tuesday and Wednesday pose problems. In my opinion, Tuesday is going to be the worst of the bunch. Thursday and Friday will have more opportunities as well. They look pretty scattered right now based off what I'm looking at. But it's just going to be another one of those weeks. Probably somewhat similar to this week, right? You have a lot of pesky rain chances for you this week.
Right.
You'll probably, there'll be some navigating, and there'll be probably some opportunities for you and I or you and us to chat and to do our best to get those best windows where you can get the most work done.
Right. Well, as always, appreciate, the guidance that we get from BAM on, that end of it for sure. So,
of course,
but it looks like the 500's going to go and everything's good for people coming up to that.
I think so. It should be good to go here. In my opinion, any type of pesky rain stays south of the Indianapolis area getting on Sunday and won't be terribly hot. I've been to many Indy 500s where it's just been an absolute steamer. But this year should be pretty cool. Be really, about perfect at the Indy 500.
I heard where they sold out, so they're actually going to show it on TV locally there. Is that true?
They did sell out. Yeah. I think first time since,
I'd heard
hundreds.
Yeah.
Indy 500.
Mm-hmm. So good luck.
Which is that's like 750,000 people all in one spot. That's really
that is crazy. That is
people all at one event. But yeah, we've got several race teams that we'll be forecasting for. Won't be a whole lot to forecast for, but in fact, the top two, the pole setter and the person right below them, are clients of ours. So pretty exciting for us.
That's awesome. Heck yeah, that's awesome. That's funny to mention. My dad used to sell automotive parts. This goes back a long, long time. And but anyway, he said he worked for a company called Thermoid was the company's name, but they sold belts and hoses. And what they would do back in the day, man, it was, you can appreciate this. They would give all the drivers in the 500 their belts and hoses to use in their cars. So then their advertising immediately after the 500 was our belts or hoses are on the winning car of the Indianapolis 500, So, yeah, that's some old school stuff, isn't it?
Heck yeah. That's some old school marketing right there.
Yeah, they just had them on everybody,
Absolutely. That's awesome.
I love telling them. Do what?
Have you ever been to an Indy 500?
I have not. I went to the Brickyard 400 once. And isn't that it? The Brickyard 400?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did that one time. I had a good friend of mine had tickets, actually had pit passes. He was he worked for one of the Ford dealerships here in town, and we went
Okay.
up there to the time trials, and
Uh-huh.
that was something else, man. We got to get down there on pit row, or as
Oh,
close as you could to it, and I'd never been that close to anything like that, and that was crazy. And what I remember the most of it, and how is it at the 500 too? I mean, I remember I didn't know what the smell was, but they were telling me it's the brakes on those cars. I'm like, what's that
oh.
smell?
I usually the only thing I'm smelling at the track is the smell of the beer in my hand.
Oh, okay, all right,
But I'm sure there's probably something similar as
yeah.
well. You know what
That
we need to do, Wayne? We need to get you up for a 500, and then you need to get me down to a Kentucky Derby.
a derby, yeah, that'd be fun. We could probably make that happen. Yeah,
But yeah,
they're both events worth seeing. You know,
that's, yeah,
but
of course.
good deal. Well, you plan on going, or are you just having a party?
No, I'm not going this year. My nephew's graduating high school this year, so we've got some
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 of
stuff
that.
to go to this weekend.
I
Some
got you.
graduate stuff. So
Well, good deal. Well,
absolutely,
stay safe with all that, and congratulations on your nephew. So,
absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
are y'all taking him down the meteorological path, or what's he doing after high school?
Oh, he's. I don't think he'll be doing meteorology. He's going to Alabama. And Lord knows what he's going to do. I don't think even he knows what he's going to do, which
Uh,
is fine. He's got a lot of time to figure it out. But
yeah, that's right. That's true. Gosh, it's hard to ask somebody 17, 18 years old what they're going to do when they grow up. Hell, I'm
no
still
kidding.
thinking about it.
We
Oh,
all.
Lordy. But hey, Matt, I appreciate you hopping on with us, my friend, and I won't keep you long today. So,
Yeah,
but
I appreciate it. Yeah.
oh, I absolutely appreciate it, and tell Brett and Michael and everybody hello for us up there at BAM. We appreciate everything you guys do for us. Okay,
I sure will, Wayne. Well, you have a great rest of your day and enjoy your Memorial Day.
you too, my friend. We'll see you. That was
Yeah,
all right. Bye bye. That's Matt with BAM Weather. Check those guys out. It's bamwx.com if you want to have reliable weather forecast and an opportunity to run your business a little bit easier with weird weather around. They can certainly help you out. So, Daniel, talking about the recipe, and following it and doing the right things and I got a text from one of our listeners and was telling me that one of the local nurseries here was on one of our TV channels, WDRB, recently, and they were talking about fertilizing their plants and all. And he says, the verbiage that they used, and I'm not going to put the name of the company out there because it just wouldn't be the right thing to do. But the gentleman that was talking about fertilizing their plants and whatnot said, just use a clug of fertilizer to a gallon of water. A clug. So I always wondered what a clug was. There was a guy named Jack Kelly. He's probably dead now. I don't know for sure, but he had a lawn business not too far from us, right over here, less than a half mile from us. And when I first started spraying lawns, that's what he used to always say. He'd say, just put two or three clugs in it, you know? And I don't know. If you saw him, you'd understand why two or three clugs made sense, So, and Jack, if you're listening to me, man, I'm not making fun of you. You really helped me understand that there's a better way of doing things. But not just from a profitability standpoint, but an environmentally sound standpoint. I think that's the thing, because what I found is, and I used to have customers do that to me all the time when I was out treating lawns. And I don't know if any of you guys who treat lawns, let me know, shoot me a text. But if it's happened to you, when you'd get there and they'd be glad to see you and small talk for a second, or whatever. And the reality of it was they'd say, Wayne, if you don't mind, go a little heavier this week, go a little heavier this application. And so then I had to, I got to the point where I would just say, okay, but I also got to the point where I would try to explain to him why, hey, heavier is not better. More is not better, especially in Dr. Powell. He is deceased now, but he was a very, very knowledgeable agronomist with the University of Kentucky. And he taught me a long, long time ago. Um, and I heard him say it over and over again in classes there that we would sit through that the Kentucky Turfgrass Council would put on, that more is not better. And he said, the way I want you guys to remember that is simply this. And he wasn't throwing any manufacturer or distributor under the bus of the chemicals, but he said, they're in the business to sell product. If it takes a half ounce, he said, if you'd make any adjustment off the label, go lower, not higher. And I don't know, Stephen, if you're listening to us, I'm just curious of your opinion on that. Is not that I don't want you to call out Dr. Powell right, wrong, or indifferent, but is that always a safer move? Going lower versus higher with a product. I'd just be curious. I know that seemed to have worked really well for us. I know a lot of things we do is on the low side of the recommendation, and it seems to work fine. Still staying, and Dr. Powell didn't suggest that you go. Excuse me, I'm gonna get a drink of water. He never suggested. Excuse me for that. He didn't ever suggest that we not do it according to label directions, but he said the lower end of the range, a lot of times can be a just a fine solution. So something for you guys that may be considering lawn applications just to think about. So we weren't going to talk about lawn applications today, but I like Daniel's analogy with the recipe for sure, and certainly will use that because I think that's something everybody can understand. I did want to give everybody a big old shout out that isn't a business owner because we're going to talk about business owners here in just a second. But before we get into the core of that, and I'm sure, Daniel, I'm counting on you to have a lot of good input on this direction that I'm going in. And if you turn it in the other direction, that's always good too. That's what I like. But I had a gentleman the other day. I'm getting some concrete done work at my house, and this is just a big shout out to contractors in general. That this guy gave me faith in contractors because I've heard so much negative about not showing up, not showing up, not showing up, and we hear it all the time. Oh my God, y'all showed up. I've called 2 people or 3 people or whatever number they throw out there, and they didn't show up or they wouldn't call me back. That when I reached out to this gentleman, Joey's his name, and about doing some concrete work for me at home. First of all, when I sent him a text, he responded to the text pretty quickly. When I say pretty quickly, less than a half hour, and he said, "Yeah, I can stop by and take a look at that for you." And he said, "How about this evening?" Meaning, I don't know, it was Wednesday, I think. And I thought, okay, here we go. We're going to find out. He said, I'll stop by Wednesday around 7. And it was about 10 till 7. I got a text from him. He said, "Hey, I'm on my way, running a little bit late, but I just want to let you know I'm going to be there." And he showed up about 5-6 minutes after 7. And I was like, you don't have any idea how much I appreciate this because I was really counting on this being a project. Now, the work's not been done, so I don't know how it's going to follow through. But I can tell you this, Daniel, it was refreshing, and I sincerely mean that, to have somebody that responded to a text, set an appointment, and showed up for the appointment. You've been dealing with some contractors. I mean, you've had pretty good luck too, right? I mean,
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, Any of them ghosting you on stuff you've wanted done?
Not that I've actually worked with.
Not that, well, yeah. But yeah, and so I'm looking forward to it. I've got a sidewalk that I'm having to get taken up, and actually, it was my steps leading to my front door, and then at the end of that sidewalk, it's not a long sidewalk, maybe 17, 18 feet, 20 feet, something like that. Had a little damage there um, that needed to be fixed too. So I just decided, well, it only left like 3 sections of my sidewalk that we weren't doing something with. It's going to be the first section and then the section by the steps, and the steps are going to get replaced. So we decided to just go ahead and take it all out. And, going to go that route. So I'm hoping that he follows through with that part of it as well as everything else has been. But like I said, it just made me feel good that this young man, and I think he told me, we got to talking. I think he told me he was 27, 26 or 27. Um, and yeah, yeah. So it was really cool, though. It was just the whole experience so far. I got my fingers crossed that it's all going to go well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that done. But I wanted to preface my story with that, that there are good contractors out there. Now, we get stereotyped a lot of times, whether we're doing concrete or lighting or, lawns or landscape, fill in the blank on what service it is that you provide. But there are good contractors out there. And what I wanted to talk about today and what my truth bomb of the day is, nobody, you guys know I don't use that very often, but nobody is insignificant regardless of the size of their business. That's right, Seth. At 26 and 27, he is a spring chicken, but the young man is off to the right on the right path. I give him credit on that, but nobody is insignificant because of the size of their company. He never once, and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but he never once, I asked him, I said, well, how long you been in the business? And he said, well, 6 years. I've been doing concrete. And he said, I've been doing it for myself about 3 years. And he said, we specialize, our niche is smaller concrete jobs. We don't do large jobs. And it got me thinking about it, about sometimes we don't perceive ourselves as professionals, and this was not the case with him, but he provided the idea for me to talk about this today, that nobody's insignificant regardless of the size of their business. It doesn't matter if, let's look at it from a lawn guy's perspective for a second, because I don't know the concrete business, but it doesn't matter if you got 40 accounts or 4,000 accounts or 40,000 accounts. We've all decided as business owners what course we want to take, right? And I do firmly believe in that. And it doesn't mean that if you want to be a small company, that's the wrong choice. It doesn't mean if you want to try to scale into a large company that's the wrong choice. I think the most important thing we think about is what is going to be your comfort zone with your business. If you want to remain small, remain small. There's not anything at all wrong with that. If you want to scale. I think what the constant needs to be, and Daniel, feel free to correct me or add to this anytime you want on this, but I think the only constant that needs to be there, small or large, is that you do it professionally. You can show up, you can do the job, you can communicate with your customers, you can return the phone calls, you can send the estimates out. Whether you're a one-man show or a multi-crew company, those things need to be consistent, in my opinion.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's really the foundation of business, really. I mean, unfortunately, it's something you have to talk about in the service related industries, but I think that's the foundation.
yeah, absolutely. You know, be proud of who you are. And, you know, that was something my dad taught me. You know, he said, it doesn't matter what you do in life. You don't look down on people, number one, for what they do. And always, used to say all the time, he said, Wayne, remember, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. And I believe that to be 100% true. And be proud about who you are and what you are. So the fact that you're small, don't let that hold you back. Don't, you don't apologize for that. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. But, take that opportunity to sell your services based on who you are. And I think that's a mistake because I hear guys all the time that are apologizing for being small. They're not directly but indirectly apologizing for being small. It's like, well, man, we can't do that. And they start coming up with this, and this. And I'm not saying that you don't decline jobs. Absolutely, you decline jobs if it's not in your niche of customer. But also, what I think the most important thing, or maybe one of the most important takeaways from this discussion is whatever size company you are, small, medium, large, whatever, that's all perspective anyway. But again, let's take the small company for an example. Like Joey was talking to me about his company. Okay. Sell the small advantages. Sell the advantages to your customer of what small brings. You know, what small brings to a client is you call the owner, you talk to the owner calls you back, the owner comes out and does the work. You know, you've got all that interaction with your customers. Don't you think that? I think that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, especially when you have even though you're small, if you can build some sort of like portfolio of, oh, this is what I've done, this is, somewhat of my reputation. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm getting that guy on my job.
Yeah.
You know?
It's for that reason that at Wayne's Lawn Service, we have a number one on all of our trucks. We've got a number one on all of our trucks. We want whoever looks at one of our trucks to think they're getting the number one truck. Now that gets into the marketing side of it and the subliminal message side. But that's just something little we do here is all of our trucks, have a number one on them right there, where a lot of guys want to have, they do their numbering 23, 103, whatever, they start at 100, wanting people to think they're bigger than what they are. And that's okay too, if that's the perspective that you want to take. But for us, I want our customers to believe that, hey, you're getting our number one crew, you're getting truck one. And that is one of the advantages that we sell as a quote unquote smaller company is, hey, you're actually going to see the same crew. You're actually going to get the same person. Now, small, again, like I said, goes back to customer base and your own size. But there were times when small meant Wayne was pulling up on every job. And that a lot of people liked. And as we scaled some, that's what was kind of hard on some of our customers. Like, okay, where's Wayne? Kind of concept. So as you scale your company, and you do grow and you get a little bigger, if that's the path you want to take, that's something you need to let your customers know as well. Is that, hey, you know what, Miss Smith, due to your loyalty to our company, we've continued to grow year after year, and we certainly do appreciate that. But hey, Daniel that's been with me here on your yard, he's going to be taking care of that for you now. So there needs to be transition time between you and somebody else if that's the way you're taking your company. But the whole point of this, without getting into that whole side of it, that's going down a different path than what I want to go down today. But is if you're small, sell the small company advantages. And I'm not going to go through those again. We just talked about it. But if you're larger, sell the larger company advantages. They both have their pros and cons. Now when we talk to somebody, it's like, hey, well, Miss Smith, why should you pick us, right? I mean, that's what they ask you a lot of times. Well, why should I hire you over this guy? Well, I mean, we're not a huge company, but we're large enough. We're not going to call and tell you that our trucks broke down or my lawnmower's broke down or I got to skip a week. We're going to be able to keep you serviced, you know. And those same analogies get into play with landscaping and fertilization, weed control, and the other services that we offer. So,
I think what I never thought about it like this, but I think when you're small, you're you can be more personable, but you're potentially seen as less reliable, and maybe truly are potentially less reliable based on some things that could happen. Get hurt or your truck breaks down, whatever those things. And when you flip the scenario, it's the opposite. You're bigger, you're more reliable, but you're less personable. And those are, I think, maybe two things, depending on which situation you're in, that you can sell the personable part, and people will, I think, easily grasp onto that. Oh, that makes sense. But here's also how we can be reliable, even though we're smaller. And the same may be true within the other way. Hey, we have this reliability, right? We have, backup trucks and backup mowers, and we're not going to miss this week. We're not going to miss any week, blah, 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 whatever. But here's how we're also personable. We're going to have the same crew on your yard every single week. You're going to see the same faces and the same uniforms. You're going to have the same, here's here's how we can also be personable for you.
right.
So I think it's almost like both of you need both of them. Depending on where you are, you have more of one, but you sell like what makes you different in that at that tier of where you are in size is how you sell the other one.
Correct. And that was my whole point that, whatever there's advantages, disadvantages to both, but use the advantage to you based on what size company you have. And, at the end of the day, I really think it boils down to it's not wrong or right to be small or want to be bigger. That is not a wrong or right. But I think what it is that you do with your company, regardless of what you're doing within your company size wise, is do what you want to do, remain within your comfort zone and size of company that you want, but do it professionally. And I think that's the key. We can be professional as a small company, we can be professional as a large company and sell, to your point, Daniel, how do we connect the dots to be a little bit bigger company, but still give our customers a personal experience? And I think you made a really valid point with that. Mike's got a question about your door and how it relates in this situation. Did Daniel get his door done? Just curious if it's a small company who did it and what's his experience been, or vice versa.
So my big door no has not been done yet. They're supposed to come last Friday, but it rained and stormed, so they rescheduled it actually for this next upcoming Friday. And so I will say I wasn't upset because I've obviously you can't work in that, and I don't want, they don't want to expose your indoors to that if it's going to rain and storm and things. So I guess maybe I wasn't mad at them for that, but I was frustrated in general, and maybe part of me took some of that frustration not out on them, but like I connect it with them, and I don't know if they did a great job on alleviating that frustration. Now they gave me a new time and were fine enough about it, but I don't know if they made me feel like they really felt bad for me. Not that it's their job, but like I don't know if they it didn't seem maybe it's just caring. And now I don't know how much of that is just a me thing
Yeah.
versus, what are you supposed to do if you're the business? They do what they need to do and they can't work in lightning, and I get that. But um I don't know. So maybe from working with a bigger company like they are, uh, maybe they need to work a little bit more on that personable side. And now they were extremely personable. The people that actually came out to see me to do the selling and to do the measurements, they were really nice. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that they're missing out on all the things, but I don't know. I just felt a little bit of a lack of caring from that perspective. But on a completely different note, my side garage door is getting replaced potentially. Well, is getting replaced eventually, and that's a much smaller, one man show kind of thing, or not one man show, but the guy that
Right. Just
I guess
smaller
probably
company.
has a few employees, but not many. And yeah, and so he came out, he did the thing. I wasn't there for the initial thing, but that seemed to go pretty well. And I'm talking and contacting with that guy, and so we'll see how that goes in comparison. With and kind
Yeah.
of follow back up on how that goes.
See how that goes. So what it boils down to, and I was just getting ready to say that, Mike. My dad used to always say, and Mike just sent this in. My dad used to say it's service after the sale that consummates the relationship. And I think that's sometimes where a lot of companies, small or large, can lose a little bit of touch. You get the personal feeling and you feel real warm and cozy during the selling process. But what can you do? That's the question. What can you do to have that same warm and fuzzy condition continue on with the service after the sale, regardless of the size? And I think that's what we could all work on maybe a little bit more, regardless of the size of our company, you know. Um, but I think it boils down to three things, uh, or this is what I believe anyway. I think there's three things that we never apologize for in business. And the first one is our company size. Regardless of which end of the spectrum you're on, never apologize for your company size. If you've grown into something larger, that's fine. Be proud of that. Promote that. Don't apologize for being small. Don't apologize for being large. Don't apologize on company size. That's number one. Price is something else. You know, never apologize for price. Know what sets you apart. Know what makes you different and better than a competitor. And because of that, maybe the pricing's different. You know, yeah, we're a larger service. We may need to charge a little bit more. You know, we may have some additional expense that a smaller company wouldn't have, but here's what you're getting for that. So that's why there has to be that correlation that Daniel was talking about of, hey, if you are working alongside with a larger company, let's call it, that you do have that service after the sale so that the customer is happy knowing that, hey, we paid a little bit more, we got a little bit more. Okay. So that's the second thing that you never apologize for. And last but not least, you never apologize for success that you've achieved within your company. Again, I'm going to say it, but I just want this horse beat good, as God and Peter wouldn't like that, would they? But the fact that don't ever apologize because you're successful in what you're doing. And success doesn't mean big. You can be very, very successful as a one truck operation. So, just as a summary to hit that one more time, never apologize for your size, never apologize for price, and never ever apologize for success. Because none of those three are easy to achieve. You know, none of those three are easy to achieve. And when you do, you deserve the right to flaunt it. You know, Stephen, I appreciate your text. He said, the bottom line is the label's the law. Going over subjects you to burn potential. Under label rate, you don't get the effect you need. And that winds up costing you more money with callbacks. So, yeah, absolutely. And the label is the law, but certainly stay within the label rates, but there's normally a range within that label. And that was my point with you guys was, first of all, the clug method doesn't work. And it's certainly not it's not good business practice, to say the least with that.
I
But
think what goes along with that is the eyeball square footage method.
yeah, like, oh yeah, I think there's 3,800 square feet, So take the time to do it the right way. I think that is the most valuable lesson, in all of this. So with that being said, Memorial Day is coming up. Hope you guys have a safe Memorial Day. And we'll be back. See you next week. But in the meantime, be sure to have a safe Memorial Day. Do something that you like doing. Weather-wise, sounds like it's going to be a little bit different for a lot of us across the country. So appreciate Matt hopping on with us, and appreciate all the input on the text today, you guys. I know I always appreciate your all's interaction with us on our show. So with that being said, you guys have a great weekend. Do something fun. Be safe. And remember, profit is not a dirty word.